Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us again for tonight's webinar spotlighting our Asian American community here at UC Merced. My name is Kia Tan, and I'm our Associate Director of Diversity Engagement and Transfer Initiatives in the Office of Admissions. And this evening, I will be moderating the webinar and our panel. We have a wonderful program for you tonight. Focusing on some of our amazing faculty, hearing our amazing student experiences and voices, and then you'll have an opportunity to do a live Q&A with all of them to learn about their experiences some more. All right, so to kick us off with, I wanted to share with all of you who we are here at UC Merced and why this webinar is so important to us. Here at UC Merced, we are a proud Hispanic, minority, and Asian American, Native American, Pacific Islander serving institution located in land first inhabited by local indigenous people, including the Yokuts and Miwok people. And that's really important to who we are here at UC Merced. This webinar is part of a larger webinar series called Become a Bobcat, our diversity inclusive webinar series. And for us, it's really important to make sure that we spotlight and focus on our diverse community because that's really part of the UC Merced identity and culture. So I'm going to go ahead now and walk us through the program, and then I'll pass it over to our welcome speaker to provide a formal welcome to our program. So we're going to kick off with the welcome affirming the Asian American community and diversity here at UC Merced. We're going to then move on to spotlighting a few of our faculty so you can learn about their journey to where they are, but also their research and the academic experience. Then we're going to move forward with a student panel where you'll be able to hear from some of our current students to learn about their experience, what they're involved in, how life is like here at UC Merced. And then we'll have a few closing remarks by the Director of Admissions. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to my colleague, Onar Primitivo, the Special Assistant to the Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs for Equity and Justice.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you again, Kia. So I would like to thank you all for this exciting night, being in community. I always get excited when it comes to these Zoom, and again, because I think what is pronounced at UC Merced is how we build community and how we build collaboration and network with each other. You will be part of the UC Merced community for what is sure to be a transformative and life-changing new chapter in your life. And let me assure you that I share both your excitement and anxiety. I myself also identify as a first-generation college student. So for those who are first-generation college students, please take this as much as you can and take notes. And again, also feel free to reach out to any of us. We would be glad to be connected with you, and any questions that you have that we may not cover within our time frame, please feel free to reach out and ask for help, right? Because that's the one thing that we need to do better on. And again, we will be joined by great scholars to talk about their experience, distinguished professors and staff that are with us. And as Kia mentioned, my name is Onar Primitivo, he, him, his pronoun, and serving as the Special Assistant to the Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs on Equity and Justice. I went to school in Seattle or in Washington, Western Washington University. And because of my involvement and because of my mentors just really believing in me and asking me if I ever wanted to go to a graduate program, and it's around higher education and leadership. So I did the Colorado State application, and next thing you know, I was accepted. So again, first generation college students to get their degree, and then also a master's in higher education and leadership is just phenomenal journey. And again, I couldn't have done it with my colleagues, with friends, and of course, my mentors. I have been at UC Merced for 10 years. I have seen many scholars like yourself navigating higher education in the process of discovering yourself. You as an incoming college students have been spending the last year, maybe more, scouring college websites, going on long road trips to visit campuses, taking stressful examination, writing inspiring statements to convince admission officers of your worthiness, and answering too many questions from relatives, friends or relative of friends, like where are you going, what college, what are you going to major in, and perhaps what is liberal arts, what does that mean, right? All of the process has concluded, and you are now ready to begin. And hopes that we welcome you to UC Merced to turn the page, to start fresh, and to redefine yourself, your life, to discover new passions, new friends, and in doing so, you will create something new, a new identity for a new identity for you as a part of a vibrant, multicultural learning community known as UC Merced. And so we invite you to engage with us. We have this time together. It's very precious and it's very sacred for us, right, as a community. And again, I welcome you all tonight and with our special colleagues and panelists. And I turn it back to Kia.
Thank you so much, Onar. Before I let you go, there's actually a question in the Q&A that I think you'd be the perfect person to answer. We had a question in the Q&A that asked about what is first generation? What does that mean to go to college? Could you share a little bit more about that?
Yes, absolutely. So the way we identify first generation college student typically is the first one in the family to go to a 4-year college. And so my background is my father, my older sister, and my older brother and myself, we all immigrated to the United States in Seattle as our port of entry. And though that my brother did military, my sister did a vocational school, first generation kind of encapsulates the first person to go to a 4-year college. And so many of our populations, I believe you may have the number, Kia, last time I checked was a little bit higher than 70%, if not around there. So the first generation, if you identify as first generation college student, is the first one in the family to go to a 4-year university.
Thank you, Onar. All right, so up next, we're going to go ahead and move forward with our faculty spotlight. And so I'm going to invite one of our faculty to come on screen first, and she'll be highlighting the classroom experience, the academic and research experience, as well as sharing her personal journey through higher ed. So I'd first like to invite Dr. Sora Kim.
Hi, thank you, Kia. I am an assistant professor in the School of Natural Sciences, and my department is the Life and Environmental Sciences. I joined UC Merced 4 years ago, and it's been a really amazing experience. I had initially started off as faculty somewhere else, and I really found this calling to UC Merced because of its diversity. And also my research sits squarely both in life sciences and environmental sciences or geosciences. Let's see here. My research sort of spans things with biology, sort of ecology, looking at physiology, how animals interact with their environment. I also am trained as a geologist, and so I also study rocks, past climate, and fossil shark teeth like the megalodon that's shown here. A lot of my research is actually what I really try to get to is to work with students, both at the graduate and undergraduate level. Even when I was doing my PhD at UC Santa Cruz, I think that the most fulfilling part of it was that I worked with undergraduates. My PhD project, even though it was earth sciences, I ended up keeping sharks in captivity. And so I had undergraduates that would work with me for about a year and help me feed sharks and clean their tanks and things like that. And those undergraduates, I'm still in touch with them today. Many of them are vets or have gone on to get their PhDs, and I still communicate with them pretty regularly. And similarly at UC Merced, I've also continued to work with undergraduates. I'm always recruiting heavily. I'm involved with the UROC, which is the Undergrad Research Opportunity Center on campus. And I usually host somewhere between 2 to 4 undergraduate students. And I think that a lot of times in the sciences, undergrads are seen as sort of like washing dishes or doing very like routine things, but I actually really strive to get undergraduates involved in the research, how to analyze data, and give them sort of their own research project, and to have them go to conferences as well. And really my goal is to have every undergraduate also be a co-author on a scientific paper, so that that can help them in their journey to graduate school. So I've had undergraduates work in my lab from the biology department, the environmental system science undergraduate major, as well as in the chemistry major as well. So, and so far at UC Merced, I've managed to get 4 undergraduate students into very highly esteemed PhD programs, which is makes me very happy. I also teach classes in the environmental system science and biology programs. I take a pretty alternative approach to teaching, though. I think that for most classes in the sciences, it's really emphasized that you memorize facts and take these exams and you just have these rote memorization. But I don't actually think that that signifies anything about science, especially not how science is done today. I tell my students pretty regularly that when I have a scientific question, I just type it into Google and find the answer. It turns out we like carry around mini computers in our pockets everywhere. And so I really emphasize sort of these skills that are cross-disciplinary, giving presentations, doing literature reviews, synthesizing knowledge, and becoming an engaged scholar. And so that is really what I strive to do in all of my classes, from this introduction to marine science is a class I'm teaching now. I also teach more upper division classes like stable isotope ecology. And then I'm hoping to bring online a class that really emphasizes like how to get involved with research. And so to take students who maybe have never been involved with research to sort of like learn the soft skills associated with doing research, how to read a scientific paper, and then how to seek out a professor to do research with. And I think that that's one of UC Merced's great strengths, actually, is that it's still small enough that that undergraduates can get really involved in research. And that is honestly, I think, the most important thing for going to graduate school, if that is something that you're interested in. And so I don't know if there's any questions in the Q&A. I think I have maybe 1 minute left to answer.
Hey, Sora. Yeah, you know what? There is a question for you in the Q&A, and it is about the undergraduate research, right? How critical is undergraduate research to getting students to graduate school is one of the questions we have in the Q&A.
You know, that I would say that that's one of the most important parts, besides like your letters of reference. I think that demonstrating that you have been involved in some kind of research is pretty important. I think that undergraduate, you know, is a lot about grades and can you do these assignments that are pretty straightforward and laid out. But in graduate school, it's really about how motivated you are, what kind of like leadership that you have, and your willingness to sort of to have that self-motivation. And so in being involved in research, you not only demonstrate that you've taken that initiative to be involved in research, but then also the professor or the graduate student, the postdoc that you've been doing research with, they can give a really detailed and in-depth a letter of reference for you too, which is, I think, also a very important part of graduate school. And I guess I should also wrap up to say that I think that working with undergraduates is so key because no one really did that for me. My parents went to college in Korea and didn't really know how the academic system worked in the US. And so I felt like I was just kind of like going blindly through undergraduate and graduate school. And so I really sort of try to take that approach in working with students. So I think that's my time, and I will hand it over to Dr. Ma Bang.
Thank you, Dr. Kim. Good evening, everyone. I'm really excited to be here with you and share a little bit about myself and my research. I'm an associate professor in the Critical Race and Ethnic Studies program, which is in its fifth year as a new program at UC Merced. This is my first job at UC Merced, but I have been here for 8 years. And I came to UC Merced to sort of start this program because my graduate training is in ethnic studies. So I'm really proud to, be a part of the UC Merced family, and then to be, starting this program to make it available to our undergraduate students, right? There are other UC campuses who have ethnic studies like programs, but it's really important that we had one here at UC Merced. So I'm in the Department of History and Critical Race and Ethnic Studies in the School of Social Sciences, Humanities, and Arts. My areas of research, I study power, power through difference. So race, gender, sexuality, class, and I look at racism in particular. And through the lens of race and power is how I also study refugees and immigrants. I study Asian American histories and experiences in the US, but then also internationally. And then intersecting that with the study of war and empire. I recently published a book that specifically focuses on Hmong American history and experiences of war and displacement. It's called History on the Run. That's a culmination of research that I did in graduate school, my dissertation project that I expanded on when I became a professor. And currently I'm also doing other research projects which are more community-based at the moment. So what you see on the screen here is a research project called the Refugee Teaching Institute, which is a part of a grant from the Whiting Foundation to do public humanities engagement, right? So how do you engage with or disseminate humanities research to communities? And this Refugee Teaching Institute specifically is focused on developing or working with high school educators to develop ethnic studies curriculum, because California recently passed the legislation to require that high school students in California graduate with having taken an ethnic studies course. So I'm working with teachers to do that from a refugee perspective, which is where my research is. And then I'm also doing another community-based project working with artists and writers from refugee and immigrant backgrounds to really help support the work that they do, especially in the Central Valley. So in the classroom, I teach primarily, I teach graduate and undergraduate classes. The graduate program that I'm a part of is called Interdisciplinary Humanities. And I teach graduate courses on the history of critical race and ethnic studies, but then, and theorizing, but then I teach undergraduate courses on my research and methods and theories. My own advisor talks about what it means to teach, right? Which is to teach to the whole person. And I really try to emulate that in my own teaching, where I create a classroom environment that students, that your prior knowledge is valued, and that students can feel supported to share your point of view. And I'm also flexible with students' pace and learning styles. So I offer different kinds of assignments like writing, but then also, creative projects. But I also ask a lot of my students, so my classes are reading and writing intensive. I ask students to dialogue with the readings and then with each other, right? So we do this in the classroom and in discussion. And like Dr. Kim, I also mentor students over the summer with their independent research through the UROC undergraduate research program that we have. So but I don't exclusively mentor students in my major. I have worked with students in psychology, poli-sci, sociology, history, who are interested in studying the intersections of, race and law, right? For a student who was a poli-sci major or political science major. So students are drawn to work with me to sort of, look at the intersections of what they're interested in, whether it's political science, the law, right? With understanding race and power. And then, so I think I'm going to end there in terms of, talking about myself and my journey and what I do. And so that we can have more time for questions. I think that that's probably the best part of these kinds of webinars.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dr. Vang. So we'll go ahead and get started with some Q&A. So those of you who are participating in this webinar, please feel free to send us questions through the Q&A button. You have two amazing faculty members here, both different discipline that you can ask questions to. As they both said, they both do a lot of mentoring, right? And that is part of the experience of attending a university like UC Merced, where you can be mentored by people who do look like you, who have similar experiences. And so any questions that you all have in the Q&A, please feel free to send them. But to get us started with, I'll start with the first question, which is, could you both elaborate more about your academic journey and your career journey and navigating that as an Asian American student? And so we'll start with Sora, since we started with Sora first.
Well, I went to undergraduate in Dartmouth College, which is in New Hampshire. I was born and raised in the South. I grew up like in North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. I can't say that I had a very strong Korean identity. I can't say that I necessarily had a strong Asian American identity going into college. And so college was the first time that I really met other Asian Americans, which was pretty cool. I felt very different, though, that I did not necessarily want to go into business. I didn't want to become a medical doctor. And I think that I found my place sort of late in terms of doing research and getting involved in a lot of Asian American organizations on campus. And then being in STEM, honestly, back when I was in school, there wasn't this racial awareness. And I think that for a long time in STEM, there was this notion that just stay focused on the science. Science is objective, but we know that that's not true anymore. And I think that America has gone through a reckoning of sorts, and even scientists. And so I think now I really don't view it that way. And I don't think that most of the faculty, especially at UC Merced, view it that way. And I'm pretty outspoken and involved in various equity, diversity, and inclusion initiatives on campus, and various programs for Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, and geosciences, trying to get more representation in the ocean sciences, trying to create a Women of Color in Geosciences collective as well. And it's pretty awesome to be at a university that supports that even among its STEM professors.
Thank you so much for that, Sora. Ma, would you like to add on to that about your own experience?
Yeah, so my family came to the United States, and I was, I think 9. So I came as, part of the sort of refugee resettlement. And so I'm a first generation college student. Going to college was something that my parents wanted but had no way of, helping me figure out how that would look like. And so, somehow I made it to college. And it was really in college, and this is why I think that that going to college is so important, right? And getting to know your professors and then meeting your fellow students is so important, because that really shaped or opened up my world to more than sort of just my family, right? And my own identity as a Hmong American student or person. And so I got involved in a lot of student organizations. So we had at the University of Oregon a multicultural center, but then we also have Asian American Pacific Islander Student Union, Black Student Union. And so just getting involved in different student organizations and activities made my college experience fun, right? Because the classroom learning, academic is important and is a priority and should be a priority, but to balance that out with doing activities outside of the class with other students to enhance my experience, right? So I found that to be, and that's through those kinds of engagements is how I, actually got to connect with professors outside of the classroom. So, something that I did mention earlier in my intro is that I try to attend student events, or we in our program also hold events that our students can attend, because that outside classroom engagement between students and faculty is super important to developing a relationship, right? That the students can get to know their professors. And figure out who they are, right? Learn about who they are, but also have intellectual conversations outside the classroom. That learning doesn't just happen inside the classroom, right? That it can happen anywhere and everywhere on the college campus. So for me, that was crucial to my own development and journey, and where I learned about possibly going to graduate school. I actually went to undergraduate as a biology major. I declared a biology major. I was going to be pre-med. And then I did go all the way to finishing up with a general science degree. I took OChem, biology, chemistry, physics. But by my junior year, I found ethnic studies, and also ended up taking a lot of ethnic studies classes. So I ended up double majoring and staying 5 years. So that, shaped sort of my process and my journey, in the sense that, I thought I knew what I wanted to do when I came to college. And then, it changed halfway through, right? But I still kind of stuck with parts of what I wanted to do. But this different path that I was taking was also really new and exciting. And it is a path that I discovered in college, which was really meaningful for me, right? Because I think that when I got out of high school and I had taken a lot of science classes, I was like, yeah, this is, what I want to do, but I hadn't really fully explored, other classes or other opportunities. And so being in college opened up that space for me to do that. And so that was really valuable, so that I felt like I made my own choice, right? And it wasn't like other people, like my parents, made that decision for me. And I think that's what's meaningful about the college experience.
That's so funny that you've taken OChem, because I haven't taken OChem, despite what I do being mostly chemistry.
Thank you both so much for sharing that. I'm over here just in awe and just so grateful for you both being here, but just in awe at your stories and your willingness to be authentic and sharing that with our audience tonight. We do have a few more questions for the Q&A, but I'd like to ask that you hang around. I want to make sure we have time to spotlight our students too, and then I'll bring everyone back for a Q&A at the end, so that way everyone has an opportunity to speak. So for those of you who have questions in the Q&A, please feel free to keep sending them on in. And do our best to get to all of them, but I want to make sure I also bring on our students so you can meet some of our students as well and hear about their experience as UC Merced students. So moving right along, we have our first student, which is Amara Anwar, and I'd like to invite Amara to come on screen and share a little bit about herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amara. I'm a fourth-year human biology major, and I'm from Sacramento, California. Some things that I'm involved in on campus are research. So I was part of the UROC program that was discussed earlier. I work with zebrafish, and so it's very interesting to see how that kind of relates to like the biology and stuff I'm learning in class. I'm also a STEM-centered tutor, and I help tutor biology for introductory courses. And other things that I was involved with are a lead pre-health program that we have, where I was able to get people from the Central Valley to come in and share their experiences regarding the healthcare field. And so after I graduate, I'm planning on taking a gap year and applying to medical school. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you, Amara. All right, and so we'll go ahead and invite Rosie to come on next.
Can you guys see me? Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Rosie. I am from Fresno, California, so not too far from Merced. I'm currently a third year, and I'm a psychology major. Some things that I'm involved in on campus is I'm involved in the Filipino club here, as well as the Hmong Student Association, and I'm also a student ambassador. So my plans after UC Merced is I want to become a high school counselor. So after I graduate, I want to get my master's degree probably at Fresno State in counseling, and then build on my career from there.
So much, Rosie. All right, and our next student is Danielle Gasper.
Hey, hello, everyone. My name is Danielle Gaspar. I'm a fourth-year economics major here at UC Merced. I also am double minoring in natural science education and psychology. And a few of my involvements here on campus include I am the lead scholar coordinator for the Office of Social Justice Initiatives and Identity Programs, which is always a mouthful. I'm also serving as the president for the Student Alumni Association and working with the Alumni Relations Department as their student success intern. A few things that I'm planning to do after I graduate this semester is to become an educator somewhere in higher education, but immediately after I graduate, I definitely want to take a gap and travel a little bit.
Thank you, you three. So if I can go ahead and have all 5 panelists return, and Onar, I'm not sure if Onar is still here, but he's welcome to come back on too. And just, you know, we have questions in the Q&A, so I want to make sure we get to those questions. And so one of the questions that I'm gonna ask to Amara is, someone is asking about South Asian students. Do we have a good representation of South Asian students here at UC Merced? And they're curious if South Asians fall under the Asian American umbrella.
I would say yes, South Asians do fall under the category of Asian Americans. My family is from Pakistan, so yeah, I would consider myself part of like that kind of community. I do know that on campus we do have different organizations that do that are part of South Asian clubs and organizations, and so they always cater towards like celebrations and multicultural events that they do have for these specific students.
And thank you so much, Mara. And then I wanted to just open to anyone else too. I know that at UC Merced, for example, like Rosie, I know you're part of the Filipinx Club too. And so we have lots of students and who are, you know, involved in other organizations. And so if anyone else had anything to add for that, I want to just make sure I allowed that space too. All right. So another question we have, and this may be for anyone who's interested in pre-med but is in social science, is it common for undergraduate students in social science, humanities, or anthropology to still be on the pre-med track and go to medical school? Is it harder? Is it hard compared to students who major in biology? And I was actually going to invite Ma to perhaps maybe come back and answer that one, because she did talk a little bit about her being pre-med as well as her mentoring students from all different majors, to maybe share a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think that it is absolutely possible to be an undergraduate in a social science and humanities discipline, and then to go to medical school and be on a pre-med track. Some students can double major, right? So if you can double major in a social science or humanities and then a STEM major, or you don't have to. But I think that the key thing is that you just have to make sure that sort of pragmatically, right, that you keep track of things that you need to do, the kinds of science classes that you need. But in fact, our students who are ethnic studies majors, we tell them, we have a brochure, we do tell them that a career path can be medical school, right, or a law school. It doesn't have to be just graduate training, in a PhD program. And primarily because we do need people who are in the humanities and who have a humanities perspective to be lawyers and doctors, right? To work with communities, especially communities who have experienced health disparities, right? So to have that humanities background is important. And it is doable and possible, and it has been done. I actually, at UC San Diego, when I was a graduate student, I mentored an undergraduate who was a ethnic studies major, and I wrote her a letter, and she got into medical school. So it has been done.
Thank you so much for that. And then I just wanted to add, specifically for that, here at UC Merced, we do have our pre-health advising, and it's open to anybody who's interested in going into the health field. You'll work with specialized advisors who work with students in all different majors. It could be psychology, ethnic studies, anthropology, computer science, right? But if you're interested in going into the health field, that's a set of, or it's a service here at UC Merced that is open to all students. And so another question here that we have is about the Asian community in Merced. So what has your experience been as an Asian in the Merced community? So I'm going to assume this is someone not from the Merced region, and this is open to anybody on our panel list who would like to speak to it. Okay, Rosie.
So being an Asian in the Merced community, there are a lot of Asians here, specifically Hmong, like myself. So I remember that I wasn't sure if there was like a big Asian community at UC Merced. So when I was in high school, about like my junior or senior year of high school, I did come to like a Hmong Club conference. So it was like a 2-day and 1-night event where we kind of just experienced the college experience. We got a group tour. We also learned about what college is like. And there was also like guest speakers that were there to talk to us about college and graduate programs and things like that. And so when I came here, I realized that there was actually like a really, really big Hmong population here. So it kind of got me excited because I did grow up like with the Hmong community in Fresno. And so coming here, I feel like it's like a good way for like to build a family away from home. So being an Asian here, everyone is pretty diverse as well at UC Merced. Hopefully that answered the question.
Thank you, Rosie. Would anyone else like to add to that and share their experience here in Merced?
I can add just a little bit about it. I identify as a Filipinx American, so there is a lot of Filipinos here. So if you identify or you want to connect with a lot of Filipinos, this is where it's at. We have a lot of organizations also that surround themselves with identity of Filipinx Americans. So we have Filipinx American Alliance and also the Filipinx Americans in Science and Engineering. And so we do have a lot of students that identify that way, but we also welcome all other identities to join and get in community with us. So we're quite a fun group.
Thank you, Danielle. All right. Someone else is asking about what kind of clubs do we have on campus, like cultural clubs for Asians Americans, and what type of cultural events do they put on? And maybe we can just go down the list because I know y'all probably could each list a few. So we'll start with Danielle again and we can go down the list.
Yeah, so we do we have a few cultural organizations that identify in the API diaspora. And so we do have, like I mentioned, the Philem organizations. We also have VSA, which is the Vietnamese Student Association, the Hmong Student Association. We do have quite a lot of cultural events that tie into those organizations. So for PAA, which is Filipinx American Alliance, we host Barrio Fiesta and the Filipinx Cultural Night. And so Barrio Fiesta is where we invite a lot of big name artists that identify as Phil-Am, and they come to our campus and we have cultural dances and a lot of fun activities. And then PCN, which is Filipinx Cultural Night, is hosted usually in the spring, and it's a play that our organization hosts, and it talks about Phil-Am identity and the struggles that we encountered in the diverse set of our experiences.
Thank you. Amara, would you like to add anything to that list?
I'm not a part of this club, but there is a South Asian Student Association. I know that they do have events such as for Holi, they have a celebration that they celebrate, and a lot of students come out and they all often enjoy it because it's like a home away from home for them as well.
I don't know if we missed any others that you might think of, Rosie.
So just like the Filipino club where they have the cultural night, we do have a Hmong culture night as well. There's a lot of Hmong dancing. We do invite like big Hmong artists, and then we do have a Hmong food there as well. So it's just like a great way to learn about the Hmong like community and things like that. So that's just one thing, but I think Danielle listed all of them, most of them.
Awesome, thank you. And then, you know, I think I know we do have an Indian student organization, ISO, on our campus, but I know that we also have like graduate groups and even staff and faculty of color associations. And so I would venture to say that at UC Merced, we have quite a number of organizations to provide cultural support to everyone. And if it doesn't exist, one of our famous saying is, you can always create it here. Everyone is a pioneer here at UC Merced. All right.
And also, Kia,
go ahead,
I just added in the chat the link to what used to be Cat Life, and now it's called The Presence, which has all the active student organizations, be it multicultural, academics, fraternity and sororities, right? And so the great thing about starting a club is you just need 4 other students that are very much interested in starting a club, right? And you pay the dues. I think it's $20. It might have cost a little bit more now, but again, it just needs 4 other students that shows interest in the club, and in terms of what you want to do, write a chapter, and so forth, that you can download the template, right? So that is so exciting. And again, if you see a club that is not on there, you can start one. And if it's not active, you can activate it, right? Because again, depending on the leadership, I think the great thing about our multicultural clubs are they're very, very engaged in the community and on campus, and are also educators, right? With the different events and cultural events that they promote. And also when something happens, what I appreciate about the student organizations is they do come together, and it's that spirit of connection and solidarity that defines us. So I think I dropped it in the chat, but if someone can double check that, I can also send it to you, Kia, directly.
Awesome, thank you. And then I see that Sora has her hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to add in terms of being Asian American in Merced, specifically on campus. I think that UC Merced is like one of the few like top research universities where you can stand in any place on campus and look around and you're not the only Asian American, or you're not like the token diversity that's present. Like I have been, like my academic journey has taken me to Dartmouth College, University of Chicago, University of Wyoming, University of Kentucky, UC Santa Cruz, and there were so many spaces where I was the only, but that is not necessarily the case at UC Merced, and I think that that is like one of the most beautiful and awesome things about it.
Thank you for that. There was a question in the Q&A, and I wanted to ask it to this group too. For someone who does not identify as Asian American, but would like to learn more, right? How does our campus receive, individuals who want to join an organization just to learn or be, more submersed in that culture? What has been your experience in your organizations and inviting allies from outside of, your community to your space? And anyone from the panel can answer the question.
I can start. So I think like UC Merced is a very inclusive campus, and we do a really good job of kind of like displaying all of our clubs. So definitely, like if you're interested, a lot of our clubs are very open and willing to encourage you and invite you to come visit their events. I think it's important to like do this because I think it kind of increases the amount of diversity that we have, and people are become more aware and become more educated, and that only helps better like the type of people that we become. And so I know that one of my friends, she's Palestinian, and she's part of an organization where I think she's part of the Filipino organization. I think she knows Danny. Her name's Summer, and she's very much involved with their programs, and she always goes to their events. She participates, and so I think it's very interesting to see how different like people of different backgrounds can go and visit other organizations and learn more about their communities, because it'll only definitely make the person more well-rounded in the end.
Yeah, and I can also add upon that. Based on my experience, I've been always eager to join a Phil Am org when I came to UC Merced. So, like, even if you don't identify, there's going to be a community here for you if you just seek it out. And so, like mentioned, Summer is Palestinian, but we welcome her with open arms, and she has been such a great asset to our community. She's always been supportive, things like that. But in my personal experience, I've always been interested in taiko drums, which is the Japanese cultural drums. And there's an organization here on campus called Nikkei Student Union, and I've always been fascinated with it. And I don't identify as Japanese, but they opened me with welcome arms, and they taught me how to do it. They always invited me to practices and things like that. So they always want to encourage, or a lot of students here want to encourage others to learn about their culture, because it makes them feel comfortable sharing, because maybe that wasn't opportunity for them before until coming here. So we're always welcoming new students to organizations like cultural ones. And so if you don't identify, it's fine. We're always excited to meet new people.
Thank you so much for that, Danielle. I have another question here, and I'd actually like to invite our faculty back too for this question, which is family and community are really essential to the Asian culture, right? What advice would you have for students on balancing work, school, and family obligations? If you could share maybe even your own personal experience of navigating that as well. You can start with either one of you two. And Onar too, because I know, you have your own experience as well.
I can go, and then Dr. Kim and Onar can add. Yeah, I mean, it is. I think that as students of color, Asian American students, some of us who are first generation students, that going to school is not just about, our commitment is not just to school, right? That we have family obligations, whether we're helping with siblings or even our own parents, right? And so those are the kinds of things that we have to juggle. And I think that what's important is to let people know that that's what you are, right? If you're experiencing a particularly difficult time in your life, or an emergency, right? That as on the faculty end, for your professors, that it's important for us to, we don't have to know all the details, but if you reach out to us, that's where we can sort of, say, okay, this student is going through something at the moment, we'll check back in with you and be flexible about deadlines or assignments or whatnot. So that's what I try to do for my students. As someone who's juggling it myself, it is difficult. I mean, I just got a call from my mom to make a doctor's appointment for her, right? And so, no matter how big or old we get, we never escape those kinds of responsibilities. But I didn't used to appreciate it as much, but now that I'm older, I appreciate that she still calls me and asks me to sort of, these things are ways in which we can be a part of their lives, right? Especially if we, go away to college and then find a job that is not in our hometown. And so for Asian American students, that to go to college away from home can be really lonely, right? Because our families have been, even if they may not know how to support us academically, that they support us and no matter what. And so it can be extremely lonely. And so we are also, trying to build a community away from home, but also trying to find our way back, right? And to keep that connection with our families. So it's multiple things that we have to juggle, but it is what makes our experience unique and fulfilling.
Yeah, and I think that one thing that that I've realized in being at UC Merced is that really learning happens in a very different way. At every other university that I've been part of, it's much more individualistic, and especially when I'm teaching, students don't want to do group projects because somebody always drops the ball. And you hear a little bit of that grumble here, but I think that learning is much more collaborative and synergistic here. And that is because the student population, which forces the professors to some degree, are not white. And so we learn differently, and we hold sort of that need for collaboration and community and supporting one another differently than, say, at other universities. So I think that because that is the majority, because we have so many students of color, that is much more mainstream.
Great. Yeah, I agree with both Professor Vang, Professor Kim, right? I think the community at the UC Merced community has this notion that we leave the place better than we found it, because it makes the place better, it makes me better, right? And so the one thing that I always share with my scholars is it's okay to ask for help, right? Because we want to make our families proud. I want to make my dad proud. I want to make my dad proud because he wanted to become a mechanical engineer, and I failed math. And I'm just like, how do I navigate those conversations? And I think it's with my peers, right? And with all these different clubs and organizations to help me navigate that, and finding people that look like me, like Professor Vang, like Professor Kim and Kia, right? That it's okay for us to do that, but we know that it's a little bit tricky, right? Because of the family expectations, right? And also as a first generation college students, I didn't know anything. I'm discovering what FAFSA is with my dad and what it means. I'm like, Dad, just put your signature on it, right? Like I'll get scholarship, and really, like, what did that conversation look like if I had somebody, if I asked for help from financial aid, and again, the folks that are here, both staff, scholars and faculty, they're very much willing to help, because this is about your success, right? And we want you to be better because it makes our community better. So that's the one thing, is don't be afraid to ask for help, because there's so many people that will give you the sage advice because they're connected to, and then they will connect you to those great folks.
Thank you so much, Onar. I appreciate all three of you and your stories, and all of our students for their experience. It is amazing to me every time that we've done this event, the turnout that we get, the questions that we get. It really does amplify that, doing diverse inclusive webinars and having space like this is so important to affirm our community, and that space like this is needed. We are coming close to time, and so at this time I want to go ahead and pass the program over to our Director of Admissions, Dustin Noji, to come and provide a few closing remarks before we end the program. Hi, Dustin.
Hi, Kia, and thanks again. I just want to thank our students, staff, and faculty for putting on tonight's event, spotlighting UC Merced's Asian American community. This event has been a part of a Become a Bobcat series, where you can discover all about the University of California. In just 16 years, UC Merced has become one of the top 40 public research universities in the country, where undergraduates have the chance to join a campus built on research, leadership, and public service. But beyond that academic experience, part of UC Merced's identity is really about being one of the most diverse campuses in the UC system. We know that it's important that you find a community that supports your growth, identity, sense of belonging, and success, both inside and outside the classroom. And in my own personal experience, being an Asian American student at the University of California campus, part of that success was also about discovery. Growing up in the community that I did here in the Central Valley, there weren't a lot of other Japanese Americans like me, especially Yonsei, or fourth generation Japanese Americans. And at the University of California, I was able to connect my family's stories with the history of California, and also to connect with other Japanese Americans, because one thing we know about being identified as Asian American is that our community is so vast and diverse. And that really helped me grow as a person. It helped me find a sense of belonging. And also, it helped me to identify with my family and my elders that helped me generate the type of relationship that I always wanted with my grandparents. And so I want to, again, encourage you to further discover more about UC Merced. Tonight, you've just heard a few stories about our Asian American community and their experiences as Bobcats, but we hope you'll continue to learn more about our campus by joining us for upcoming Becoming a Bobcat Day events, where you can visit and learn more about the UC Merced experience. And then lastly, as Director of Admissions, I want to encourage you to come and visit our campus, because there's no better way to experience UC Merced than being here. Bobcat Day is our biggest campus event of this year, and it's happening on Saturday, April 23rd from 10 to 2 p.m. I want to invite you and your family to join us. On behalf of the University of California, I want to thank you for your time and your questions tonight this evening. We hope to see you on campus this Saturday, or if not this Saturday, then sometime in the near future. Kia, I'll turn it back over to you to close tonight's event.
Thank you so much, Dustin. And yes, so right in front of you is a QR code that you can scan to register for our Bobcat Day, which is this Saturday. We are super excited to come back in person and to have, our community and our students welcome everyone to our campus. We also have a few more webinars coming up within our diversity inclusive webinar series and within our Become a Bobcat webinar series. All of our webinars are from 7 to 8 p.m. and you can go to that website right there to register for any of these events. If you're an incoming student or just someone who'd like to know more about our housing options, transportation, and the dining options at UC Merced, you can do that on April 26th. If you want to learn more about our Office of Student Involvement, I know there were a lot of questions about different clubs and orgs tonight. You can definitely learn more about that from our office involvement. And if you are a prospective transfer student and you're thinking about transferring to UC Merced, we are hosting a spring tag webinar on May 10th for the tag for spring 23. So once again, we hope to see you at Bobcat Day. Thank you all so much for joining us this evening. This is our contact information. Please feel free to contact us and also follow us on social media. We hope to see you all soon. Thank you.